vyaptam yena characharam tatpadam darshitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupaswarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakhyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam Namah Pankajanabhaya Namah Pankajamaline Namah Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangraye Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sarvebhyo Namaha, Sarvesham Krute Swagatam. We are now in the middle of the 10th chapter. And we have already completed 11 shlokas in the 10th chapter. So today we will do shlokas number 12 to 18. But before we start, we will quickly review the last 4 shlokas that we did. We said that these 4 shlokas are the essence of the Bhagavad-Gita. Sri Bhagavan says in the 8th shloka of the 10th chapter, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddhaha bhavasamanvitaha. So he is describing how his bhaktas, intelligent, with their intelligence, they engage in his service. Bhava samanvitaha, with a feeling of bhakti, with the intention to do seva. Seva means I want to give happiness to the other person for nothing in return. I will not take anything in return. So with that mentality, they engage in his service. And with the understanding that he is the original cause of everything. Everything comes from him, everything exists in him. All phenomena proceed from him. How do they engage in bhakti? What do they do? Mat chittaha, mat gata pranaha, bodhayantah parasparam, kathayantascha mam nityam, tushyanti charamanti cha. This shloka gives us a glimpse into the typical activities that the bhaktas, the sadhakas do. They absorb, their minds are always thinking about him. Their prana, their life is absorbed in him. They are bodhayantaha parasparam, means they always talking about him to each other, telling his narratives, kathayantascha mam nityam, telling his stories, recollecting his leelas when they talk to each other. And doing that, in doing that, they feel a lot of happiness. Tushyanti charamanti. This is how bhaktas feel a lot of pleasure, a lot of happiness, a lot of joy inside as they do this. Then how does he reciprocate with them? Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. With such people who are always engaged and with love, they are relating with me. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. I give them the intelligence with which they come to me. Tesham eva anukampartham aham ajnanajam tamaha. Nashayami atma bhavasto jnanadipena bhaswata. So with the lamp of knowledge, which is like a shining object, so shining lamp of knowledge, I destroy the darkness in their heart. Okay, the darkness because of the ignorance. They don't have ignorance by default, but they don't have knowledge by default. There is ignorance in the heart of the living beings in this samsara. But I, sitting in their heart, destroy that ignorance, and by that I show my compassion to them. I show my compassion in this manner, and this way they will find it easy to come to me. So we saw these 4 shlokas in the last session, and today, going forward, Arjuna begins to respond. So Arjuna Uvacha. Now Arjuna has been hearing since the beginning of the 10th chapter and even earlier the 7th, 8th and 9th chapters where Sri Bhagavan revealed about his nature, his qualities, and how he's the origin. He's the, all the energies, both inside this universe, material universe, as well as outside, the spiritual universe. Everything depends upon him. Everything is moving around him. He's the root cause of everything. So many different ways he has described himself and he's revealing himself. Now Arjuna is completely awestruck. So he says, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. Ahustvam Rishayah Sarve Devarshir Naradastatha Asito Devalo Vyasaha Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. So he says, you are the supreme Brahma, the supreme, what we refer to as Brahma, Bhagavan, the supreme reality. You are that supreme reality. Param Dhama, you are the supreme abode. The word Dhama is used in different meanings in Sanskrit. One of the meanings is a place of residence, abode, Dham. Another meaning is the effulgence or illumination coming from the body. So in both ways, this can apply to Sri Bhagavan. So Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. You are the supremely pure object. You are the supremely pure entity. Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. So you are eternal. Shashvatam means that which is always. You are an eternally existing personality. Purusham Shashvatam. Divyam means divine. The word divine in English has a close etymological connection with the Sanskrit word divya. Divya, divine. Divyam Adideva means the origin, the original God. Adideva, or the origin of all the gods. Devanam Adihi Adideva. So Ajam means one who doesn't have a birth. Ajaha means one who doesn't have a birth. Ajam, Vibhum. Vibhu means something which is massive, something which is enormous, infinite. Vibhu. Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. So you are all of these things. Ahuhu Tvam Rishayah Sarve. All the great rishis, all of them say, Devarshihi Naradaha Tatha. For example, the Rishi Narada, who is also called the Deva Rishi because he is worshipped by the Devas. Asita, there is another Rishi called Asita Rishi. Then Devala, there's another Rishi called Devala. And Vyasa, Vyasa Rishi. He's giving example of 4 different Rishis. He says all the Rishis, for example, Narada, Asita, Devala, Vyasa, are saying this, have said this. Ahuhu means they are saying this. Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. Now you yourself have told all this to me. Arjuna said, all the great sages, including Narada, who is worshipped by the divine beings, Asita, Devala, Vyasa, say that you are the supreme conscious being and the supreme abode. You are supremely pure. You are the eternal, divine, and original God, unborn and mighty. Indeed, you too are saying the same to me. So what you are saying is not something that I have not heard before. I have heard this before, and now you are just saying the same thing that I have heard before to me. So therefore, it must be true. Sarvam etad ritam manye yanmam vadasi keshava. Ritam means satyam. Sarvam etad ritam manye. I consider that all that you have said is true. Yanmam vadasi keshava, O Keshava. Nahi te Bhagavan Vyaktim Viduhu Devana Danavaha. I fully accept that neither the Devas nor the Danavas are able to understand your Vyakti, your personal manifestation. You are manifested as a Vyakti here, but neither Devas nor Danavas really understand what it is. Okay, so now the meaning of this we will see as we go forward and we hear Shishupala's words. How most people don't understand him. Right? We will see that, and who understands him, we'll see how Bhishma explains about him. O Keshava, I consider all that you have said to me to be true. O Bhagavan, neither the divine beings, Devas, nor the demons, the Danavas, understand your personal manifestation. Swayam eva atmana atmanam vethatvam purushottama bhuta bhavana bhutesha deva deva jagatpate. So he's using different adjectives to express the awe that he is feeling for Bhagavan. He says, Swayameva Atmana Atmanam Vetha. So nobody understands you, but only you understand yourself by your own self. By your own self, you understand yourself. O Purushottama, the supreme, the Uttama among the Purushas, the supreme person. Okay, Bhuta Bhavana Bhutesha. You are the origin of all Bhuta. Bhavana means that which brings about all other living beings. Bhutesha, the master of all living beings. Deva Deva, God of all the gods. Jagatpate, the master of this universe. Because the different adjectives he uses. O Purushottama, the best person. O Bhuta Bhavana, the creator of all beings. O Bhutesha, the master of all beings. O Deva Deva, the God of gods. Oh Jagatpate, the master of the universe, only you know yourself by your own self. Not that somebody else has to tell you about yourself, but you know yourself, through your own means. By your own means, you know yourself. Okay, so Arjuna is now expressing his awe. Now he says, Vaktum harhasya seshena divya hi atma vibhutayah yabhir vibhutibhir lokan imam stvam vyapya tishtasi. So Vaktum arhasi, you ought to tell me. Vaktum means to tell me, to tell. Arhasi means you ought to. Asheshena. Asheshena means without any remainder. Ashesha means without remainder. Asheshena Vaktum arhasi. You ought to tell me without any remainder. What? Divyaha hi atma vibhutayaha. All your own vibhutis. Vibhutayaha is a plural of vibhutihi. Vibhutihi, vibhuti, vibhutayaha. That's the Sanskrit expression. So vibhutayaha means all your vibhuti. Vibhuti in English can be translated as splendor or magnificence, wonder. Okay. So all your splendorous aspects, vibhutis. Atma vibhutaya means your own vibhutis. Divyaha, they are all divine vibhutis. They are not like the normal material awesome things we see here. In this material world, we see a lot of awesome things, right? We see, for example, a huge tall building, a skyscraper. It's so awesome. We see a huge aircraft. Or we see somebody like a Nobel laureate. He's an extremely intelligent person. We see awesome things, but these are materially awesome things. But what he's asking from Bhagavan, Divya hi Atma Vibhutaya. Please show me those things that are divine about you. Let me understand them. Yabihi Vibhutibihi Lokan Imans Tvam Vyapya Tishtasi. By which you are pervading this material existence and are situated. So they are divine in nature, but they are materially manifest. So show me that, or explain those to me, describe those to me. Yabihi vibhuti, by which vibhutis? Lokan imans, these worlds, lokan imans, tvam vyapya tishtasi. You are pervading and reside. You reside in this world by pervading them. You reside in this material existence by pervading them. You ought to exhaustively describe your multiple types of divine splendor by which you pervade and dwell in these worlds. Katham vidyamaham yogin stvam sada parichintayan keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagavan maya. So he's clarifying what he just said. What do I mean by what I just said? Is I want to know that Katham vidyam, how can I know aham, me? Yogin, he's addressing Bhagavan as a yogi, as the greatest of all yogins. Swam, sada parichintayan. If I am always thinking about you, how can I know you? But specifically what I mean is keshu keshu cha bhaveshu. In what different ways? Keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagavan maya. In what different ways, if I have to always think about you, in what different ways should I ought to think about you? In what ways do you want me to think about you? Tell me some different ways in which I can think about you. So he's elaborating what he meant by saying, tell me about your vibhutis. So I will then think about you in terms of those vibhutis. When you say that I am this, I am that, okay, then I will say, okay, Bhagavan told me that he is that. Let me meditate on him as that. Okay, so that's how Arjuna wants Sri Bhagavan to spell out more explicitly the different ways in which Arjuna can think about Bhagavan. Oh Yogin, how can I, always thinking of and contemplating upon you, understand you? Bhagavan, in what different ways are you to be thought about? Vistarena atmano yogam vibhutim cha janardana. Vistarena atmano yogam vibhutim cha janardana. Bhuyah kathaya triptirhi shrinvato nasti me mritam. So he says, don't just tell me very briefly, don't tell me concisely, but tell me elaborately. Vistarena. Vistarena atmanaha yogam vibhutim cha janardana. Atmanaha yogam vibhutim cha means, yogam means the way in which I can connect with you. But I'm connecting with you through thinking about your vibhutis. So tell me about your vibhutis through which I can connect with you, thinking about you. Oh Janardana. Bhuyah kathaya. Tell me, I know that now you may say that already I have told you, right? Since the 7th chapter, he is talking about himself and telling about his splendor, his nature. So just to say that, okay, you may say that I have already told you in the last 3 chapters, why are you asking me again? But he says, Bhuyaha kate, please tell me again, because triptihi hi shrinvataha nasti me amritam. Even though I have been listening to this since some time, I feel no tripti at all, because I want to hear more and more. Okay, somebody feeding you good food, for example, you eat a little bit and you feel very good about it, then you want more of it. You go back, you have some more, you already feel a little full, but still you want more. You're craving for more and more. Okay, that's the feeling he's experiencing. He's already heard quite a lot. 3 chapters is a lot of content. But no, I want to hear even more. Please tell me more and more. Okay, that's what he's asking. Oh, Janardana, the one whom people worship. The word Janardana has multiple interpretations. So there's another interpretation of Janardana, because the Ardh Dhatu can also be understood as somebody who troubles. So Sri Bhagavan also troubles people in some ways. That troubles the Daityas, for example. The Daityas cannot be peaceful when he is around. So, like that, the word Janardana can also be understood as a person who troubles those who ought to be troubled. So one other meaning is those who do worship to him. So people worship. So that meaning I have put here. Please elaborately describe your splendor, Vibhuti, and the process to attain you, yoga, again. Though I have been listening to this nectar, he's describing this as Amritam. Amritam means nectarian. It's so nectarine. I've been liking it so much. I do not feel satisfied at all and want to hear more and more. So up till here, Arjuna speaks 7 shlokas. After hearing and being completely awed by what he has been hearing from Sri Bhagavan. Okay, so he's not worried that the people on both sides of the Yuddha are waiting. Kurukshetra war is supposed to begin, but Arjuna is not bothered about that. He's now also not thinking about running away from the battlefield, because he's got into this, mood of hearing what Bhagavan is saying. Is revealing new things to him. And hearing it from Bhagavan, he says, although I've heard this, the great rishis are saying this, I've heard it, but now I'm hearing from you. I want to keep hearing it. So please go on describing. And now tell me very elaborately. So 7 shlokas come out of Arjuna's mouth, one after the other. Okay. And after this, from the 19th shloka onwards, Sri Bhagavan will reply. And that's the meat of the 10th chapter. The 10th chapter is primarily composed of Sri Bhagavan's telling, I am this, I am that, Adityanam Aham Vishnu, Jyotisham Raviran. Okay, I am the Vishnu among the Adityas, I am the sun among the luminous objects. One by one, he will reveal. And the whole list of them, he will go on and on and on. So we will hear that from the next session onwards. So we will now go into the portion where Sri Bhagavan says that he is very difficult to understand and most people misunderstand. So we will see in the character of Bhishma, in the Charita, in the biography of Bhishma, how at one stage in his life he had to encounter Shishupala, and we will listen to that narrative. So I'll quickly relate, because we have been listening to Bhishma over the last 4 sessions. So the 4 parts that we have heard: Bhishma's birth as the son of Ganga, and how after he's born, Ganga takes him, brings him up, hands him over to Shantanu, who's her husband and Bhishma's father. And eventually he's brought up. He grows up as a very divine child. He's full of all the good qualities. And his name is Devavrata at that time. He then arranges for his father's marriage with Satyavati. And this is narrated, and the dilemma that he solves for his father is so amazing, the way in which he does it, that he's then accorded the title of Bhishma by the Devas and the Rishis. So after this, he takes the responsibility. Shantanu dies shortly thereafter, and he then takes the responsibility of ensuring that his 2 brothers, who are born of Satyavati, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya, they become the rightful heirs of the throne. First, Chitrangada is crowned, but he does something not very intelligent, and then he dies. Then Vichitravirya is crowned. In both cases, Bhishma is in charge of grooming them, bringing them up, making them eligible to become the king. Bhishma then arranges for the marriage of Vichitravirya with the 3 girls of the king of Kashi, the daughters of the king of Kashi. All 3 of them are highly qualified ladies. So it turns out that one of them already has a kind of an affair going on with the king, Shalva. So then he allows her to go to Shalva. And what happens after that, we will see in a different narrative. But the remaining two ladies who are there, Ambika and Ambalika, they are married to Vichitravirya, and the ladies are very happy. So even though we say kidnapping, but the ladies from their perspective, it's not kidnapping, they are blessed. They take it as a blessing that they have got Bhishma to take them away, and they get married to the emperor, Vichitravirya. Vichitravirya, unfortunately, does not follow the pure dharmic life. It is dharmic, but within the boundaries of dharma, he engages in calm. And his calm exceeds limits, and then he eventually contracts tuberculosis, which is called Raja Yakshma. And he then dies because of that. And eventually, the dilemma is back in the hands of Bhishma that now there is no one to succeed, no higher in the kingdom. So what happens? He resolves it again. And we saw in the last session how he suggests to his mother Satyavati to invite her first son, Vyasa, to perform the act known as Niyoga. The Niyoga we discussed is not just like a man and a woman, meeting and enjoying with each other, but it's done in a very, very pure manner with no lust in the mind from both parties, and done only for the purpose of begetting continuing the dynasty. And that Vyasa is the person qualified to do that. He's a great rishi. He's also an Amsha of Bhagavan. So he conducts Niyoga. But in the process of conducting Niyoga, it's not done in the best possible way. The way in which Vyasa wants it to be done, it doesn't happen that way because of Satyavati's urgency. And eventually the children that are born, Dhritarashtra, the first child, is born of Ambika, he is blind. The second child, Pandu, who's born, he's not blind, but he's got a complexion, and there is some deficiency that's described. He's described as a Mahatma at the same time. Ambalika is nervous. Satyavati says that, okay, because we've still not got the perfect child, let's try once more. And Ambika is not ready for it, so she doesn't tell that to Satyavati, her mother-in-law. Instead, she does a deceit, and by deceit, she arranges her Dasi, and eventually Dasi's child, Vidura, is born. And it turns out, because the Dasi went with the right bhav to Vyasa for this Niyoga, the child born to her is a Mahatma, is genuinely a Mahatma. And there is a story how Vidura is born. I haven't narrated that. That's an interesting story by which a sage called Mandavya, who happens to, the sage Mandavya, he curses Yama, the sage of the sage by which, so it's because it happens because he does something, and because he does that activity, he is punished to be impaled on a spear. And he points out that my impaling, although it seems to be logical, there is a flaw in this. There's a flaw in the judgment you have made, and so I curse you that you will be born as the son of a maid. And so Yama is born as Vidura. So that story has got its own nuances and details. I'm not going into that, but just very briefly, I mentioned this. So Vidura is a Mahatma. He's fully aware of Dharma, and he follows and lives by Dharma. He advises people on Dharma. But because he's born as a son of a Dasi, certain people don't take him seriously, and Duryodhana uses that against him. That comes later. Now what happens after this? So we go from the Adi Parva. All these 4 episodes which I narrated earlier are part of the Adi Parva, the first Parva of Mahabharata. Mahabharata has 18 Parvas in all. Now we move to the second Parva, the Sabha Parva. In the Sabha Parva, a lot of incidents happen, and all the water that flows in between, I'm not going to trace it. I'm going to just go to this particular point where Yudhishthira, the Pandavas have come back. They were sent to the Lakshagriha, and they attempted to be murdered, but they survived that. And then they have a tour. They remain incognito for some time. Finally, their thing comes out when they marry Draupadi. They win the hand of Draupadi, and then it becomes known that the Pandavas are very much alive. So they bring Draupadi, and due to some other facts that happen, Draupadi becomes the wife of all the 5 of them. Okay, at this point, everything has come back, and then Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, they cannot now say anything. They cannot say, oh, we are so sad that you're still alive. So they pretend that they are happy. They come back, and it's described that because Pandu was the king, Dhritarashtra could not be, Dhritarashtra could not be the king because he was blind. Pandu was the king before he died. So his son, Yudhishthira, becomes the next king. So Yudhishthira is appointed as the king of Indraprastha. He's ruling now. And so it's described in the Mahabharata how under Yudhishthira's rule, it's similar to what we say Rama Rajya. Everything is perfect. Everybody is happy. The citizens are so pleased with Yudhishthira's rule. Everything goes very, very well. So it is so good. The kingdom is running so well that all the kings, nobody challenges him. Everybody says, we accept you because we like the way you're running the kingdom. They pay tax to him. That's called kara. Kara is tax. So they pay kara and they are all cooperating with him. The kingdom is running by dharma. So when this is going on, it is suggested that he conducts what is called the Rajasuya Yajna. The Rajasuya Yajna is performed to formally establish the sovereignty of a king. If a king conducts this Rajasuya Yajna, then all the other kings who come, when they participate in it, it's like acknowledging that, yes, we acknowledge you as the dharmic person and we abide by whatever you say, we will rule. So he becomes the emperor. He's formally, even otherwise, he's sitting as the emperor, but now they formally acknowledge that. Okay, the Rajasuya is considered as a sign of his establishing himself as the emperor. So Krishna also suggests the Pandavas' brothers, his brothers suggest to him, everybody suggests now do it. This is the right time. Everybody is going, things are going well for so many years and everything is stable. This is the time to do this. So the Rajasuya Yajna arrangements are made. And it's not easy to conduct this, but it requires a huge amount of cooperation and support from the other kings. It requires a lot of resources, etc. And the Pandavas are able to generate that. So all arrangements are made and a huge, infrastructure is built for this because when the kings come from different countries, the states, today we say states in India, they come from all these places, they should be given appropriate honor and they should be given places to stay. So elaborate infrastructure is built and all that is described in the Mahabharata in detail. Okay, now after this, what happens is, so I'm covering just a portion which comes in 10 chapters of the Sabha Parva. The Sabha Parva has got many, many more chapters, but in these 10 chapters, this point, which we want to see today, is when in the Rajasuya, when all guests come, they are supposed to be received with honor. And one of the ways to honor a guest, an outsider who comes, is to offer what is called as arghya. Arghya is an offering primarily made with water, and it happens in different ways. Sometimes it may be just a simple, symbolic offering, by just offering 1 spoon of water. But when you have a physical presence of yourself and the other person, then you may decide to, offer the person a seat and wash their feet and offer arghya in that manner. So you may do it or your representative may do it. If there are a large number of guests, then many representatives will come. They will offer a puja to you as a guest and they will wash your feet. And then they'll offer something to drink along with that, something sweet to eat. And that's considered as the welcome reception. So today, sometimes if you go to a 5-star hotel, right, they may offer because they want to treat, they want to build their image as a very welcoming thing. They may offer you something and you immediately come, welcome drink and something like that. So something is like arghya, the equivalent of an arghya. So then Bhishma tells Yudhishthira that now it's the time to offer arghya to all the people who have come. And he says, who are eligible for arghya? He says a king is eligible. A king who has been invited is eligible for arghya. A guru is eligible for arghya. A person who is a priest, who performs ceremonies for others, a priest, officiating priest, he is eligible for arghya. So like this, he lists different categories of people to whom the Pandavas can offer arghya and welcome. And Yudhishthira says, yes, I will do it. And they identify a whole list of people who can be given this arghya. Then Yudhishthira has a question. He says that, Bhishma, please tell me, among all of these, I should begin with someone. And that is considered as the greatest honor. The first person to receive arghya should be the most deserving person, the greatest among all the people who can be considered as the most, the most eligible for arghya. Who is that? Because all of them are simultaneously present. So who should be offered first? That person will stand up. Please tell me. So logically, it should be somebody like probably among the kings, the oldest king or the most powerful king. Among the gurus, the most senior most guru or the most knowledgeable guru, something like that, right? Typically, the logic would be like that. So Bhishma doesn't think much. There's no thinking involved here. He just immediately says, as soon as Yudhishthira asked this question, he says that, Krishna, he should be the one who should offer, because in this sabha of people, Krishna stands out. Just like, in the night, the full moon stands out amidst the stars. There may be countless stars, but the full moon, there's only one moon, and that moon stands out. There's no comparison between the stars and the moon as a luminous object on a full moon night. Similarly, in the darkness, if there is darkness and the sun rises, immediately the sun becomes the most prominent thing, because it removes all the darkness instantly and everything becomes visible. In a place where there is no wind, if some wind comes, immediately everybody gets some breath and they feel so refreshed. So Krishna's presence here is just like this. He stands out like the full moon among these stars. And his presence has actually made this assembly so lively. Because he is present, we feel so refreshed, so energized. So there's no doubt it should be him who should be offered. So Yudhishthira says, I'll do that. And he tells Sahadeva. Sahadeva, his brother, comes and offers the arghya to Krishna. As soon as that happens, one person in the assembly, Shishupala, one of the kings, Shishupala is the king of a region called as Chedi. So he opens his mouth and he says that this offering to Krishna is not appropriate. And he starts listing reasons, he starts giving logical reasons as to why it's not appropriate. Okay, that's a whole chapter of 31 shlokas where he lists different logical reasons. It's just like, if you read that chapter, you will feel just like lawyers argue. And one lawyer says something, another lawyer gives reasons why that lawyer's judgment is not correct. So Shishupala gives very logical reasons why this is not correct. And his logical reasons are in the line of this. He says that, for example, among all the Ritviks who are present, persons who officiate in big ceremonies and yajnas, the greatest one present among here is Vyasa. So if you think that somebody should be, as a Ritvik, offered something, then Vyasa should be given. Similarly, among all the kings who are present here, the greatest among the kings would be somebody like, I think he lists the name of, he lists one of the people's names there, who's there. He says, you should offer to him. Krishna is not even a king. Okay, now if you see the facts, it's correct. Krishna was not a king. Krishna was actually a prince there. If you can give him some term, it would be like the equivalent of a prince. The king of the Dwaraka at that point of time was Ugrasena, who's Krishna's grandfather. Right? Ugrasena is not even actually the biological grandfather. Krishna's mother Devaki is the daughter of Devaka. And Devaka and Ugrasena are actually like brothers or cousins of each other. So that way, Krishna and Ugrasena have a grandfather-grandson kind of relationship. And he is living in the kingdom. Krishna is now living in the kingdom of somebody who can be called as grandfather. Right? Similarly, Vasudeva is living with him, his father living there. So if at all, so he points out that if you wanted to offer to somebody from Dwaraka, then Vasudeva should be offered because he's alive. And how can you offer to his son? Vasudeva is also present. And he should be offered the first arghya. Similarly, if you say somebody who is very dear to you, I know Krishna has a relationship with you and there's some dearness to you, but your own father-in-law, Drupada, is present here. Right? You married his daughter. So he should be offered. He should be considered more dear than this person with whom you have no such relationship. Right? So in this way, he goes on logically. He says, among all the people who can be logically offered arghya, Krishna doesn't count at all as the first person to offer. He's just a guest. He's just another guest. So you guys, you have some political intent. You want to establish some kind of a bond with him so that you can get him on your side for some reason. I don't know what it is. And you have listened to this fellow Bhishma. This guy Bhishma is just an old man. He is aged. His thinking faculties have become weak. He is not thinking clearly, and you have just gone by, just because he's your grandfather, you have gone by his words. So he attacks Yudhishthira, he attacks Bhishma, and he attacks Krishna also. He turns to Krishna after saying this to Yudhishthira and Bhishma, turns to Krishna and he says that if these two fellows have made a wrong decision, at least you should be intelligent and you should not take this. You also accept it in the presence of all these people who are much greater than you. So many kings have come here, priests have come here, brahmanas are here. You are a nobody. You are just a fellow who is just living in that kingdom. You have a lot of wives and you have some riches and all that. And you accepted it. You should say no, even if they offer you. What stupid thing you have done. So he starts attacking Krishna. He attacks all three of them. So Yudhishthira then, so he gets up at the end of this, Shishupala gets up from his seat and he summons a few other kings and says, see what these people are doing. This is not a fit place for us to be. Let's get out of here. And he starts walking out of the place, calling some other kings. Then Yudhishthira immediately jumps up from there and he runs to Shishupala and he bows to him and he says, no, please don't leave. Please calm down. What you have said is not correct. Krishna is not what you think he is, what you have described now. Please stop. And first of all, you should understand that Bhishma is a very knowledgeable person. He understands what dharma is and he knows who Krishna is. Bhishma has a clear understanding of Krishna and what he has said, we should all go by. And apart from you, nobody else has objected. Only you are saying this. Everybody else seems to be calm and composed and they are perfectly comfortable with Krishna being given the first arghya. So please calm down. He tries to calm him. And Bhishma then opens his mouth and Bhishma logically counters whatever Shishupala said. So basically, Bhishma's argument is saying that you are looking at Krishna from a social perspective. Shishupala's arguments are all from a social perspective. Now, Krishna, when Bhagavan comes here, you see, as his manifestation, personal manifestation, he says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam shajamiham, for the purpose of re-establishing dharma, protecting my bhaktas, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He comes with a purpose in mind. And when he comes, he does not always show that I am the Supreme Bhagavan. He doesn't necessarily make that the prominent thing in society. He doesn't boss around. He lives, he conducts himself as if he is a human being of some particular community or some caste or something. And he lives by that community's rules. So he's now taken birth in some community by his choice, by his own choice. And he then grew up in another community. He took birth in some community, grew up in a parallel community. And then now he's gone to another place and he's conducting his duties there. He's serving the king, Ugrasena. He's at the beck and call of Ugrasena. You see, all the activities of Krishna are done in a mood of service, in a mood of benefiting society. Okay, that's why it's called Jagat Hitaha. Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So he works in a manner that society remains peaceful. That's his intention, right? He lives in a manner that's harmonious. So if a neutral person who doesn't have knowledge about who Krishna really is looks at him, he will just think he is some guy, some person who is maybe a law-abiding citizen. He just conducts it. So why should he be given that kind of a status? Okay, he's intelligent. He's got some wisdom. Okay, he's made some good decisions. So what? Why do you make a big thing out of that? Okay, that's how any normal person would look at Krishna. Krishna lives like that. He conducts himself like that. So Bhishma points out that that's not the way to understand Krishna. You have not understood Krishna at all. So he tells him that, and this is a very, very long portion in the Mahabharata where Bhishma talks. And once Bhishma speaks for some time, Yudhishthira then goes to him and says that, I want to hear more from you. Please describe more elaborately about Krishna because you have understood him thoroughly. And then in the Mahabharata, this occupies several hundreds of shlokas. Okay, this is outside the count of this chapter. The 33 shlokas I've put here, beyond that. So they are in between, and even the edition of Mahabharata which I have has not numbered those shlokas. They are considered as supplementary shlokas, which are Bhishma's elaboration of Krishna's different avatars. He goes into a whole description. It's something like the way in Bhagavatam, Krishna's different avatars are described. He describes that in great elaboration, tries to establish that Krishna is not what you think he is. He is the Supreme Bhagavan. He is the origin of everything. All the energies that we see in this samsara are run under him, are run by him. They all come from him. He is beyond them. He is not affected by them. And he is present in each of us. He guides our intelligence. And he tells each of like Varaha Avatar, why he came as Varaha, why he came as Narasimha, why he came as Vamana, etc., etc. It goes on listing that. Okay, it's a very sweet portion in the Mahabharata, very elaborate portion. So he says that and he sets the understanding correct. After this, what happens? Now, at the end of this, Shishupala has not changed his mind at all. He just becomes a little more offensive. So then Sahadeva, he stands up and because he's the one who did the Arghya Puja. So far he hasn't spoken. So now he stands up and he says that essentially what you said is that I did the wrong puja. So I challenge you. If you have the guts, come and take me on. I will take all of you on. Okay, he challenges them. He stands up and fights. He stands up ready for a fight. And Shishupala and the other kings, they are also, agitated by that, Shishupala's challenge. Sahadeva's challenge. And they say, okay, let's now have a yudh and show our power. Okay. So when this happens in the next chapter, Yudhishthira becomes very anxious. He doesn't want this to happen because the Rajasuya Yajna is supposed to happen. That's why they have all been called, and it's meant to be a ceremony where everybody is happy. Everybody is done in a lot of happiness. There's not meant to be a quarrel there, right? So he expresses his anxiety to Bhishma, and Bhishma calms him down. Bhishma is very calm. He's not agitated at all till the end of this whole episode. So he remains very calm and he tells Yudhishthira not to worry. He says that don't worry, even if there is a fight, nothing will happen because Sri Bhagwan, who is present here, he will protect us. He is in control of everything. If it happens by his arrangement. If it doesn't happen, that also is by his arrangement. So don't worry about it. So these people, all these kings who are standing here, including Shishupala, they're nothing. They're just like blades of grass in front of Sri Bhagwan. And there's nothing to worry. He also gives the analogy of a lion and small wolves in front of the lion. He says that a lion, even if there are a lot of wolves in front of him, one single lion will not be scared, has no fear. It can take on any number of other wolves or small animals which come. So it's not scared. So Sri Bhagwan is like a lion among us. And as long as he's there, there's nothing to worry. Just calm down. He calms him down. So after hearing Bhishma's words, which are like this, Shishupala gets further angry and he launches his second tirade against Bhishma and Krishna, and he becomes more abusive. Okay? He calls Bhishma eunuch, napumsaka. Napumsaka in Sanskrit means a eunuch. Okay? So he uses that word, and you can guess why he says that, because Bhishma is unmarried and doesn't have his own children, etc. So he uses very abusive language, okay, language which probably cannot be explicitly told, but he uses such kind of words for Bhishma and to Krishna also. He starts becoming more offensive against Krishna. And Bhima, in the meantime, becomes agitated by that. We see Bhima's anger in many places in the Mahabharata. The Ekachakra incident where he kills that Bakasura. In the Draupadi incident when Draupadi is being humiliated. So here is another place where Bhima's anger comes out. Bhima starts boiling over. And he's not able to control his anger. And he is about to get up. You can see him getting up from his seat and going to he's on the way to go to Shishupala and smash him. Right? At that point of time, Bhishma notices that. So Bhishma jumps up from his seat and very quickly goes and holds him. He says, stop. Don't do it. Cool down, go back. So he then calms Bhima down, says, calm down. And the moment Bhishma touches him, he calms down. Says, okay, I will not do anything. So this is chapter 42. In chapter 43, Bhishma sees this thing happening and he tells everybody to sit down and he tells why this is happening. He points out, he tries to bring in interpretation to this whole set of incidents that have happened so far. And he narrates the story of Shishupala. So Shishupala's birth, Shishupala actually is now the king of Chedi, but who is he by birth? Now by birth, he's actually a cousin of Krishna. Now Krishna's mother Kunti is the son of Shurasena. Beg your pardon, the daughter of Shurasena. So Krishna's mother, Krishna's mother, I beg your pardon. Let me correct myself. Krishna's father Vasudeva is the son of Shurasena. Okay. And Pandava's mother Kunti is the daughter of Shurasena. So Krishna and the Pandavas are cousins. Similarly, Shurasena has another daughter. Her name is Shrutashrava. She is the mother of Shishupala. So Shishupala, Krishna, the Pandavas are all cousins. They have the same common grandfather. For Krishna, it is the paternal grandfather. For the Pandavas and for Shishupala, it's the maternal grandfather, Shurasena. Okay. Similarly, there's one more person called Dantavakra. Dantavakra is the son of another sister, daughter of Shurasena, sister of Kunti and Shrutashrava. Okay, so there are 4 children now of Shurasena. And of these 4 children are born Dantavakra from one sister, from one daughter, Shishupala from another daughter, Pandavas from another daughter, and from the son is Krishna. Krishna is born from the son, Vasudeva. That's the relationship. Okay, so which means essentially Shishupala and Krishna are cousins. Similarly, Yudhishthira and Shishupala are also cousins, first cousins. Okay, so this is the basic fact. Then Shishupala is born. When Shishupala is born, Shishupala's parents, Shishupala's father's name is Damaghosha. And both his father and his mother are dharmic personalities. They are not daityas. They are dharmic personalities, and they are born, he's born of them. But he is an asura. Okay, so he's born as an asura with asuric qualities. So when he's born as a baby. Normally, human babies make a particular sound, right? The baby cries. So he doesn't make the sound of a human baby. He makes the sound of a donkey braying. The sound that comes from his mouth is the sound of a donkey that's braying. And his physical form is not that of a human baby. He's got 4 arms, not 2 arms. He's got 2 extra arms. And he's got 3 eyes. He doesn't have just 2 eyes. He's got a 3rd eye, which is on his forehead. So seeing that form and seeing him braying like that, both the parents obviously are not happy about it. They become very frightened about what's going on. What's this that happened? And so they don't know how to interpret this thing. So they inquire about what will happen. At that time, there's an Akashavani which comes. And the Akashavani says that this child which has been born, don't worry, he will be very illustrious. He will be very powerful. He'll have a lot of luster, tejas about him. And the extraordinary features you see on his body, as well as his death, they are related to each other. The person who is responsible for his death, eventual death, has already taken birth in some other place. When this baby is placed on the lap of that person, then these extraordinary features will disappear. The 2 extra hands will fall to the ground. And the 3rd eye that is there will merge into his forehead and vanish. And that way he will get a normal human form. But that will happen only when he is placed on the lap of the person who is going to kill him. Okay. So the parents have to hear an unfortunate prediction like this. So when this happens, the next thing in their mind is to know who that person is, who is going to kill this person, who's going to be the killer, and when this thing will disappear. You have to bring up a child of this type. So a lot of kings, the news spreads that the child has been born to them, and because they are also kings, and they are also king and wife, queen. So a lot of other kings come to see the child, and when they come to see the child, the first thing they do is they hand over the child to that person and say, please keep him on your lap. They want to see if that will disappear. So a lot of kings, Mahabharata says this king came, that king came, and a lot of kings came, and one by one the king held the child and placed the king on the lap, but the things didn't go away. At the end of all of it, Krishna and Balaram, they come to visit their Bua. Okay? And when they come to visit, they have a very loving interaction. Krishna has a very loving interaction with his aunt and his uncle, and that is described in the Mahabharata. And at the end of it, like they give to all the other kings, Krishna is given the baby, and the moment Krishna takes the baby on his lap, the 2 hands fall off, and the 3rd eye disappears. So it becomes clear that he will become the killer. So Bhishma narrates this story now. And he then thereby gives an indication that Shishupala's time has come. His time has come, and he's got that honor of being killed by Krishna. So now we can go back actually one more level, and we can talk about what is the antecedent of this story, this Shishupala taking birth. So can go back to the incident in the Bhagavatam and also in the Mahabharata elsewhere, how the four Kumaras once, when they were in Vaikuntha, they were trying to see Vishnu. They were attracted to Vishnu's tulasi, the aroma of Vishnu's, the fragrance of Vishnu's tulasi. And attracted by that, they wanted to enter his palace and they wanted to see him. At that point, the Dwarapalakas, who are called Jaya and Vijaya, they offer some resistance to their entry. So nowhere so far there has been any resistance for them, but suddenly when they're offered resistance, they don't know why that is being offered, and they pronounce a curse. They say that you will be born in this samsara, and you will be living a life filled with envy. Okay, the characteristic of a jivatma in samsara is ichcha and dvesha. So you will be characterized by ichcha and dvesha. You will be living as dvesha purvaka, desha purvaka prani. So given that curse, they prayed to them. The Jaya and Vijaya realized that these sages are, whatever they said will come true now. So they offer their prayers and say, please don't curse us, please give us relief from this. They say, you will take 3 births. And Vishnu also appears at that time, and it's arranged that you will take 3 births. So in the first birth, they are born as Jaya and Vijaya are born respectively as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. In the second birth, they are born as Ravana and Kumbhakarna. And in the third birth, they are born as Shishupala and Dantavakra. So Shishupala is none other than Ravana of the previous birth of Ramavatar and of Hiranyakashipu of the Narasimha Avatar. So he's born as Shishupala. So this is not narrated here in this place. This is something that I am adding from the other places. So when Bhishma narrates the story of Shishupala's birth, Shishupala becomes further angry. Okay, obviously he doesn't believe it because he doesn't accept anything so far that Bhishma has said. So why should he believe this too? So he becomes even further offensive against Bhishma. Then Bhishma finally, after hearing all the offensive words, Bhishma remains very calm. He just says that, okay, now that you are saying all this, let us see if you can take on Krishna. I have told you who Krishna is. And I have told you that Krishna is so powerful that he already has demonstrated his prowess by defeating so many kings and so on. Now, if you really want to have a proof of that, whatever I told you, now please take Krishna on. So Shishupala says, yes, we will do that. And he tells the other king. Now, he has managed to, by his political prowess, Shishupala has managed to make the other kings also agitated. Now, they are also ready to fight. He has managed to disturb a lot of other kings. And many of the other kings also are ready to fight. So in that agitated state, they say, okay, let us now fight. So as they get ready for the fight, and Shishupala exhorts Krishna, he says, now if you have the guts, come and fight with me, take me on. So Krishna in his mind, he thinks of his Sudarshan Chakra. It's not visible at that point of time. So as soon as he thinks of the Sudarshan Chakra, it manifests. And the Sudarshan Chakra goes and chops his head off, chops Shishupala's head off. So when Shishupala's head falls to the ground, a certain spirit, a certain light, a glow of light, some luminous object comes out of that body, Shishupala's body, and it offers its obeisance, it offers respect, pranam, it offers its pranam, it bows down to Krishna, that luminous thing which comes out of that body, and then it goes into his body, it goes into Krishna's body, and everybody watches that, everybody sees that. Okay, so this becomes the end of Shishupala. Shishupala is killed in this manner and he goes back to Vaikuntha. He's given that deliverance from the curse by Krishna. So after this happens, the Rajasuya Yajna gets completed. So this tale, actually, now I have told you from the perspective of what happens to Shishupala, but my point in narrating this was to show how Bhishma, as the leader, you see, it happens in his lifetime, and he is the central figure in this. He is the one who told Yudhishthira to worship Krishna. If he had told Yudhishthira to worship somebody else, like Drupada or somebody, or Shishupala himself, all this wouldn't have happened. But he's the one who initiates this. This happens at his instruction, and he's the one who defends Krishna. He's the one who defends his decision and explains to everybody who Krishna is. He reveals Krishna's nature. Okay, and the way in which he speaks about Krishna is perfectly in alignment with the way in which Krishna describes himself in the 10th chapter of the Gita. the 10th chapter of the Gita, how Krishna reveals his vibhutis, is very much in alignment with the way Bhishma describes Krishna. Bhishma's understanding of Krishna is in alignment with that. Bhishma sees Krishna with that awe. He knows Krishna as that supreme thing. And if later on we will also hear about how Bhishma talks about Krishna at the point of his own death, when Bhishma decides to leave his body. Okay, Bhishma has the blessing that he can invite death. Death will not come to him until he invites it, and he permits it to take him away. So when he talks about Krishna at that point, and he says, I'm so fortunate that when I want to leave my body, Bhagavan is standing before me. And he describes Krishna in a very similar manner at that time too. We will hear that when we come there. So Bhishma is our inspiration for understanding Krishna. When we want to understand God, and we should understand through the lens that Bhishma has given us, not understand him in any other manner. Carefully listen to these words and understand him exactly in that manner. Okay? There are a lot of misconceptions about God. And so all those misconceptions go away when we hear about it from the Shastra in this manner. Thank you. I'll stop with this and I'll take your questions. Yeah, Dheeraj.
Sir, what is the history involved, like, or what were the past experiences like which made Bhishma so much aware about Shiva?
Bhishma is a Deva. He's like we narrated a few sessions back. Yeah, he's one of the divine Vasus. So he's a Deva. He's in that Vasuloka, which is one of the Swarga lokas. So the Devas, they already know because they have. See, the Devas are people who they are bhaktas of Vishnu. That's how they become Deva, right? They perform yajna, they perform several yajnas. They might have been kings earlier, in earlier janma. They're performing different types of punya karma and worshipping Vishnu. They develop that knowledge and become so pure that they become eligible to take birth as some form of Deva. And the Vasus are one type of Deva. They are like you can say, people in the finance department or the treasury department. So we have officials in the treasury department. People are different types of, somebody who's the head of, say, the RBI, the governor of RBI. Like this, we have different people. So the Vasus are some characters like that in the universal financial system, the system of wealth. Kubera, the Vasus, they're all wealth people. So he's a Vasu, one of the Vasus. So he has full knowledge of Vishnu, who Vishnu is and so on. He's a Bhakta. Yeah.
But like during his lifetime, there were no experiences like or any situations or any like personal experiences.
At least in the Mahabharata, up till this point, no such incident is described of his incident with Bhagavan. It is just described that Ganga, when he is born to Ganga, she takes him with her for the first period, till he grows up to a youth, to become a youth. In that stage from birth to youth stage, she brings him up and she educates him. She gets him educated with the best teachers. He teaches him in all the Shastra. So all the Veda he knows. And in the Veda, if somebody knows all the Veda, naturally they know about Vishnu. Everything is known to him. So from that we can understand that even if you look at him without his past birth, independent of his past birth, even in this birth, he is educated in the knowledge about Vishnu completely. So with that knowledge, he rules his kingdom. Yeah, Apeksha.
Good evening, sir. I've actually heard of something called the Ninda Stuti, where as Shishupala berates Krishna, he's actually, in a sense, illustrating his attributes in that Ninda Stuti. So, can you tell a little bit about that?
Okay, it probably is an interpretation, Ninda Stuti. In the way it is described by Vyasa in the Mahabharata, is described as Shishupala being offensive. His mentality is that of offensive and not as somebody doing stuti. But yes, if you can, because Sanskrit is amenable to that interpretation also. You can say that by talking about him negatively, actually, he was showing the positive qualities of Bhagavan, how Bhagavan helps his devotees, how Bhagavan, because for example, he talks about how, Shishupala describes how Sri Bhagavan went with Arjuna and Bhima to kill Jarasandha. And when they went to that kingdom, I think Magadha, right, where they killed Jarasandha, Jarasandha's capital.
Yes.
So in that place, they did not present themselves as what they really are. They went as Brahmanas. They went in the disguise of Brahmanas so that they can gain easy entry to the kingdom. And then they did some chala. For example, Krishna gives information to Bhima about how to kill Jarasandha by splitting his legs, by moving
Yes,
his
sir.
legs apart, right, and splitting his
Yeah.
body into two. So Shishupala is pointing out there how Krishna is so treacherous or so duplicitous that
Yeah.
he takes the route of duplicity to kill a king. Who my friend is Jarasandha. Shishupala says. So he
Yes.
killed my friend by using duplicity. How can you worship him? Shishupala asks like this. But this
Yes.
can be interpreted in a different way. How Sri Bhagavan is willing to go to any extent to protect dharma. Jarasandha being a dharmic person, he is willing to go to any extent. I mean, he is willing to do what would be normally considered adharma. Duplicity is adharma, but he is willing to do that if dharma has to be protected, to kill
Yes.
adharmic. Correct? So this way, you can say that Shishupala actually was bringing out Krishna's real character in the course of abusing him. So
Yes, sir.
this,
I think the duality adds more richness to the interpretation as well.
yes, it does. Yes. So everything. So I have not gone into a detailed. So the Mahabharata, if you read, if we can do that separately, one on one. Okay, I like your question. If you go to the details of the Mahabharata, original Mahabharata with all the shlokas which I am reading, then there's so much detail. Shishupala's the number of offenses. So actually, I forgot to mention this in the story, but I'll say it now. That
It's 100 offenses until which I think Krishna absconds from using Sudarshan Chakra.
yes, 100 offenses. Yes.
I
So
think that's a vow
100.
that is given by Krishna to his
Shishupala's
Mother.
mother,
mother, Shishupala's mother, Shutashrava,
Shishupal's mother. Yeah.
Shishupala's
100
mother.
offenses. Yeah.
So she tells him, so he actually offers her a boon. Okay, she asks him for a boon, blessing, because she knows that he's Bhagavan. So she asks him for that boon, and he says that you please ask me what boon you want, I'll give. So she says that please bless me that he will be protected, he will not be killed by you or something. Then he says, okay, I will tolerate up to 100 offenses. He will be offensive to me because that's his nature, his character. He's born for that. So I will tolerate up to 100 offenses. He says that. This is there in the Mahabharata. So I didn't
Yes.
mention that. I was going at a higher level. So he says that. And then here in the details that Shishupala is speaking, although the numbering is not done in the Mahabharata, it may be possible to do it because so much detail is there. Shishupala says this and then he says that. He tells so many different activities that Krishna did, which Bhishma had pointed out. For example, Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill. Okay, Bhishma points that out. He's not an ordinary human being. He lifted the Govardhan hill on his little finger of the left hand. When he says that, Shishupala, when he is retorting, he points out, what is that Govardhan hill? What is great about it? It is just something that some pile of mud which somebody has created and he lifted that. Why do you want to make that into a big thing? Okay, he speaks like that. So like this, everything that Bhishma pointed out as greatness about Krishna, Shishupala tries to counter. So you can actually identify a huge number of items, and like it was pointed out, it can be actually taken as stuti also in that
Yes.
sense.
Yeah.
Read as stuti, yeah. I forgot your name.
Sudarshan, sir.
Yes, Sudarshan. Yes, sweet. Can you put your name so others also can see your name on
Yes,
Zoom?
sir. I need to change my name. I think it's not updating. I think I have a net issue.
Okay, no problem. Are you in
Yeah.
Hyderabad now?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Sudarshan. You wanted to ask me something else?
No, sir. Sir.
Okay. Apeksha, you had a question.
That I have a question.
Okay, just 1 second. Can you just hold for a moment?
Yes,
Apeksha,
yes.
here. Yes.
So when you explained in yoga ceremony, the procedure, you
Yeah.
said that it is done to beget only one son.
Hmm.
But Vyasdev agreed to do it one more time with Ambika, I think.
Yeah.
So did he have the foresight that her maid servant is going to come? That is why he agreed. Because going by the procedures, he should have declined to perform it one more time, right?
Well, Not that he had a foresight is not given in the Mahabharata. Probably we can interpret that. We can add that because he's a knowledgeable person. Maybe he had that foresight. So why he agreed again to do it with Ambika probably is only because his mother requested him, Satyavati. So she says that it is required because the previous son is blind. So please beget one more child through her.
Yes, they go against the principles.
There may be a provision. See, in dharma generally, there is a provision to break one principle if a higher principle is satisfied. Many times what happens is multiple principles, they can conflict with each other if both come at the same time. In dharma, many times it happens. Two good things come at the same time. Both are correct. So then you have to reject one and take the other one. So it's possible that because his mother is asking and there is a need for it, it is not just done whimsically, but there is a logical need that child has been born blind and it cannot become the king because it's blind. So therefore, one more child should be brought about.
And one more question, if I may. Actually, someone asked me this. So, Dhritarashtra couldn't become the king because
Yeah.
he was blind.
Yeah.
But being the elder son, aren't his sons eligible to become the king before?
No, if there was no, because somebody in his generation has to become the king, right?
No, after their tenure, after Dhritarashtra and Pandu's tenure, they come to their children.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, aren't Dhritarashtra's children more
No.
eligible than
No,
Pandu's?
no, not necessary because Pandu also has children. So they are both together, and Pandu was now the king. Pandu was appointed as the king. He was crowned the
So
king.
his sons are-
Yeah, they become eligible because he has sons available there. They are the king's sons. It's more logical, no? So Dhritarashtra is out of he's no longer a king. He's just the king's brother,
Yeah.
even if he's the elder brother.
Okay, even his sons will not have the.
Will not have the natural right. The natural right goes to Pandu's sons because Pandu has now run the kingdom. So the natural right goes to his sons. And among them, the eldest one available. So Karna is not counted as his son because he was born before Kunti's marriage to Pandu. Yeah, so his sons are only counted from Yudhishthira onwards.
I think between Yudhishthira and Duryodhana, Yudhishthira was the elder one, I think, when that way.
Yeah, between Yudhishthira and Duryodhana by age, Yudhishthira was born earlier, but her point was not that. Her point was not by age. Her point was because Duryodhana is the son of the elder of the Dhritarashtra and Pandu. So,
Yeah, even I
so
had
when you
that
go to that
question.
generation, shouldn't he be given the natural right?
Yeah, I had that question at one point in time that he was not eligible to be a king, but his sons should have a natural right because his entire
yeah, I think that
generation shouldn't be.
would happen. I think if Pandu was not there, if there was no Pandu and Dhritarashtra could not become the king, then his sons would become the king. Because
And I also had this question, since out of the three children, Dhritarashtra, Pandu and
Vidura.
Vidura, if we see in terms of eligibility and physical fitness, if physical fitness is one of the reason because of which Dhritarashtra was not crowned king, Vidura was the one who was physically fit. It is just that he was born of a Shudra lady. He was not crowned king. So is it not something against dharma? Like we are like in the modern time we are saying so much about casteism. Is it not reflected over there that just because he was not born of a from a king, a princely lady or king from a king, and he was fit, but he was not allowed to be a king.
he was not treated as a Kshatriya at all. See, in the Varnashrama system, the caste system of today is like a perverted version of the original Varnashrama. The original Varnashrama was a law-based system where everything was ordained by rules.
But is it the dharma, as I understand, should come from father? I mean, father was Vyas in this case.
Yeah.
So the dharma of that Shudra lady and dharma of Vyas, so he should be getting the Kshatriya dharma or something. Not.
No, he won't be considered a Kshatriya, even though the mother is a Kshatriya. The father is, the mother is not a Kshatriya in this case. The mother is a Shudra. The father is a Brahmana.
Also,
So there's no Kshatriya at all in their thing, right?
They are also not married.
No, they were not.
There
No.
ends the question.
No, not married is not a consideration because here, for example, Vyasa and Ambalika are also not married. Vyasa and Ambika are also not married, right? So Vyasa is begetting a child on behalf of Pandu. So the child is considered as Pandu's child and not as Vyasa's child.
Sorry.
So the child is now considered as a child of Pandu and the Das.
Pandu, Vichitravirya.
Beg your pardon. I'm sorry. I got the wrong term. Vichitravirya, I'm sorry about it. Yeah. So Vichitravirya and Ambika, Vichitravirya Ambalika, and again Vichitravirya and not the Das. Dasi is not his wife at all
Yes.
anyway.
Not his wife also, and like the person is also from outside. So both are from outside.
Yes.
That's why.
And isn't again.
No, in any case, he doesn't satisfy. Suppose she was a Kshatriya, a queen. Suppose she was suppose it was some other queen. Then probably yes. But she was anyway not the wife of Vichitravirya. So the eligibility will come to Vichitravirya's wives to be considered as the son of Vichitravirya.
And another question I had, one of the previous session you mentioned when you were speaking about Bhishma, or rather, you were speaking about Bhishma's vow. At that time, you mentioned that having sons and after someone's death, if they do the karma and they offer water, they get enormous. The person who has died get enormous.
Shraddha, Shraddha.
So that is why they all are wanting to have a male child. Isn't there any punya karma associated with having female child? Because nowhere anybody is wishing for female child so long. I mean, even Shantanu wanted to have more male child. He wanted to marry Satyavati. Satyavati did have a male child, and then even while they are having this yoga process, they all want a male child. And even when Pandu's wife Kunti was requesting to God and she had a boon to get children, she never chose a female child. And I think only Gandhari had 100 sons and then she wanted one daughter.
Yeah.
So isn't any punya karma associated to have a girl child, upbring her or something like
I'll
that?
check up. I don't know about it. I will check up, and maybe my wife Jayashree will also help me.
I
check up.
specifically asked this question because that yoga is completely different. The laws governing that yoga and things were different. And as I was reading this Bhishma's character all together, like listening to this, I was able to pivot up certain points which I thought a lot of evil practices stemmed into Kali Yuga. I mean, they might not be allowed as such right now, but like having a
Niyoga is not allowed.
Niyoga is not allowed, but like even having a male child, for example, earlier days people were having multiple wives to create son or something, but this time it is not permissible. And then in certain cultures, particularly in Northern India, having son was a primary focus, and people used to have 8, 10, and how many number of children at cost of the health of the women, just to beget one son because of that punya karma.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to understand if that punya karma is still valid in Kali Yuga, that son will give that punya karma, or is there anything, because this practice is coming from there, maybe misunderstanding of that practice. I'm not saying that in Kali Yuga we understand it correctly. Maybe there is a misunderstanding.
See, if there is a son who is a dharmatma, who follows dharma, lives by dharma, which is very rare today, then yes, the father will get the punya. If the son performs all the shraddha in the way in which it is meant to be done, and also lives his life the way in which the Shastra says it should be lived, then yes, the father and the mother will get that punya. Both parents will get, and all the ancestors also will get. But in Kali Yuga, the law may hold, but who's there to practice it? I mean, who practices the law?
But they're practicing the counter law. They want to have a son.
They want to have a son. The reason for having the son now is not for this to prevent the dowry. It's not for punya. I don't know how many people think in terms of punya or believe in punya papa. They believe in dowry and no dowry. To save dowry, they want to have a son. Or to prevent, and so they abort the girl child, which is very unfortunate, most unfortunate.
Because I have, as growing up, I heard the second part always, because we were 3 sisters, and my grandfather always kept telling my father that you will never have those punya karma because you only have like daughters and you don't have sons. So I kept hearing when I was a kid, and I always thought, is there any punya karma associated when you beget a girl child?
Just by begetting a male child, you don't get punya, I think. I think unless the understanding is the male child will do the duties meant for that male child. The male child has to be duty bounded. I mean, just because it biologically turned out to be a male, the father gets punya. I don't know if it's described like that anywhere.
Okay.
Now that you give birth to a male child, you will get all punya. You'll get punya if you train the male child correctly, provided you have that knowledge. And then the child does all that. Otherwise, I don't think you will only get pap. If the child does pap, which most people do today,
Okay.
then the parents will only get that pap, the pap of begetting such a child.
For Apeksha's question number 1, so there was a theory. The theory was when Ambika came in front of Vedvyas ji, she shut her eyes and
Yeah, that I explained in the
yeah.
last thing. Yeah.
Yes. So the reason why Vedvyas said the third time was he was able to understand one is blind, other is full of fright. The third, the servant, would be able to stare him, and that process would happen without any.
Yeah, but he didn't know. No, her question was about why did he agree to do it second time? Because it is said that you should do yoga only once. As in the shloka in Manusmriti, which I read last time. She's correct. Her question is correctly framed. The shloka clearly says the yoga is done only once. So,
Because
but he agreed to do it second time. Why did he agree to do it with Ambika?
And one more question in yoga practice, is it, in those days, is it said in Manusmriti that the child will only be a male child? I mean, there's a provision like.
There's a way by which you can plan for a male child. The Shastra has, although I don't have those shlokas with me, but I'm aware that there is some process by which you can plan for a male child. Today we don't do that. We don't know how to make it happen. We just wait for the result to come.
Vedvyasan was following that principle to beget a male child.
Yeah, probably he could plan that and he could work it out with that knowledge. So he could bring about a male child if he wanted to bring a male child. So there is a process in the Shastra for that. That much I know. I've read somewhere vaguely. So because I don't know it clearly right now, I'm not saying it. I'm not describing that vague thing that I know. I don't want to create some confusion with that. Yeah. So it's done in knowledge. That much you can say. Yeah. Somebody online wanted to ask something.
Nilesh wanted
Yes,
to.
sir. Yes, sir. So I have a question, and it actually the way we discussed that there will be a yajna, and that yajna will then there will be a horse which will be out, and that the horse will wherever the horse goes, either that king or that area, the ruler of that area will either accept that we accept Yudhishthir or maybe as a supreme power or authority, then us, or they will get hold of it and then everybody will fight. So is it a responsibility or is it a process of increasing the area you rule? And the follow-up question is, was this also a reason why Duryodhan was not agreeing to give 5 villages?
No, that is not connected to the yajna. By the way, the first question you asked is about the Ashwamedha yajna.
Yes.
It's not connected to the Rajasuya yajna. What they're doing now is the Rajasuya yajna, not the Ashwamedha yajna. So in the Ashwamedha, yes, that process is done. For the horse goes across several kingdoms, and again, I don't have all the details of that. I can ask Jayashree if she knows the answer to whether if the horse goes to a particular kingdom, then if it's unchallenged, then the kingdom is now taken over by this
So,
king.
as I understand, Ram also in his rule time have Lord Ram also had this Ashwamedh Yajna.
Ashwamedha is performed by many kings, and it is said that if you perform 100 Ashwamedha yajnas, then you can become eligible to become Indra in a future birth.
Yes, yes. So I'm asking that can that also be a reason why is there a liability on a Kshatriya to perform that yajna? And was that also a reason why Duryodhan was not agreeing to give anything ruled under them?
Not at all. Duryodhana's reason to not give even 5 villages was just to ensure that, because he wanted to ensure that the Pandavas are eliminated from this earth as quickly as possible. Several ways in which he tried to kill them earlier. So he didn't want to give them even a small small opportunity to survive. So he wanted them to become non-existent. That is the reason why he refused to give even those 5 villages. Because he thought that if I give them 5 villages, then they will get some base with which they can expand. I don't trust them. They can
So by which they can expand is something I'm actually asking. That is it a liability on a Kshatriya to expand? Or a king?
I think it's no, I don't think it's an expectation that he should expand. It's not a liability in the sense in the sense of an expectation. But I think it is natural for a Kshatriya to think like that. Just like it's natural for a Brahmana, for a scholar, let's say like you are a scholar, it's natural for you to think of the next paper, right? It naturally comes to you. You've written 3 papers now, and you're thinking, what will my next paper be on? So you already have a pipeline of another 5 papers. By the time these 5 papers get published, you already have another pipeline of 10 papers. So a scholar always thinks of expanding his writing, right? So a Kshatriya naturally thinks in terms of expanding his kingdom. So he looks for opportunities to expand. It naturally comes to him. That is his swabhav. So it's not a liability in the sense that if he doesn't expand, then he will get some pap or something. It's not like that, but it's a nature. It's a natural propensity. It's his propensity. So in the case of Duryodhana, it was not that propensity which prevented him from giving 5 villages. It's just the fear, the extreme feeling of insecurity that these Pandavas are my threat to me. This Pandava, he saw them only as a threat. He didn't see them as his brothers. He didn't see any affection. Although Yudhishthira saw him that way. Yudhishthira treated Duryodhana with affection. He saved his life, etc., etc. But Duryodhana did not see him that way. He saw him only as a threat. And so he wanted to ensure that they don't get even, a small opportunity to be able to, to do anything to him. That is how Duryodhana saw. That is no question to his, and we don't hear about Duryodhana planning for Ashwamedha Yajna anywhere, no?
Thank you, sir.
Hari Om, can I add something to this Ashwamedha Yajna question?
Yeah. We had this question about whether the kingdom is now taken over if the horse goes there.
Right. So the first thing that I've understood is it's not a liability on the Kshatriya, and it's not compulsory at all. And the king or the emperor does that yajna. Why it is called yajna? Why it is not called yuddha? Because all the parties involved in the yajna, right from the ruler to all those who who come under the ruler, all of them get punya because of the yajna. So the entire society gets benefited by the Ashwamedha Yajna. And the Kshatriyas and their dharma, we don't understand today. That is why we have so many questions about what is right and what is wrong regarding the Kshatriya dharma. We don't understand the Kshatriya dharma. We don't understand, the other two also. A little bit of Brahmanism we understand because of the criticism which is there with the Brahmanas. Otherwise, we would not have understood even that. So the Kshatriyas, when the emperor sends the horse goes on its own. The horse is not led using any this one. So the horse goes on its own free will, and wherever it goes, whichever territory it goes, that place, whoever is the king, if he willingly accepts the authority of the king, it's over. There is nothing to fight. But there will be kings under their own Kshatriya dharma. They are bound to fight, and it's considered a very prestigious thing to lose to such a king. Okay, it is not in the normal war. Because of the Ashwamedha Yajna process, he has to lose and then surrender to the king. and then the yajna happens, and all of them get the punya because of the yajna. So therefore, the Ashwamedha yajna was performed. It was not performed for fun or for enjoyment or just like that. Nothing of that type.
It's not performed
Just
with conquering the kingdom.
yes, it was not to establish supremacy or anything like that. It was performed for the benefit of the entire society, not
Okay.
just the king.
The doubt that comes to my mind from your response is, you said it's a prestige to lose. So, but why will any king want to fight with the emperor to lose the battle? Why would he fight
Yeah,
at all?
the Kshatriya dharma makes him to fight. That is why I said that when you read so many stories in the Puranas, you'll especially when in the Padma Purana the entire the Ashwamedha Yajna is described. Rama's Ashwamedha Yajna, how Bharata's son Pushkala, he goes behind the horse, the Ashwamedha, the Ashwa, and many kings surrender willingly. Some of them, after fighting, they happily surrender. They feel it is their prestige. Their prestige has increased by surrendering, by fighting with such a king and surrendering to him. So it's not just the Kshatriya Dharma. That is why I said it's not understood very clearly by us today, because it's extinct. I mean, it's not there at all.
Okay.
Okay, and the Rajasuya Yajna is much bigger than the Ashwamedha Yajna.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
Those are more like friendly matches, like sports matches we have today. They are not like wars fought for territory. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, right.
There's like a game, like a match.
Correct. And regarding Prapti's question, whatever I've heard, whatever question I have heard, I just have certain points to add. That is why the kings wanted a male child, because the kingdom progressed, or the kingdom remained with the lineage only if they had a male child. So they wanted a male child, and the female child was not considered source of burden at all. In fact, the Kanya Danam is considered the highest Danam in our Shastras. And the Kanya Danam is different from all other Danams, in the sense, in all other Danams, you have to say idam na mama, idam na mama. That means this does not belong to me anymore. But in after doing the Kanya Danam, the father doesn't say idam na mama. Okay, so after giving the daughter in marriage to a suitable groom, the father doesn't lose his authority or his thing with the daughter.
His ownership with the daughter, yes.
So the daughter is not a source of object, or she's not to be treated like a material object at all. And the son born to a daughter has equal rights like own son, like Shraddha rights. If the father doesn't have a male child but has a female child, and a female child has a male progeny, then the Shraddha performed by the male progeny can deliver the person to Swargaloka. That is how it is. That is the understanding. I think that is the question you had, no, Prapti?
This was unknown to me, that the second part you said.
Okay, and in Kali Yuga, none of this matter. Okay, Kali Yuga, you have a male child, you have a female child, everything is same, because we are not doing the that kind of dharmic process that was there. Some faint skeletal system we are following. So in Kali Yuga, we need not bother about, that kind of male child, female child distinction. Of course, in those days, it was important because people were dharmic and they were following the dharmic way of life.
Okay.
And to conclude the thing with that, because in Kali Yuga, no other process of dharma can work. The Yuga dharma that's given is Harinama Sankirtan. To chant the names of Bhagava, to follow the systematic chanting through japa and Sankirtan. That is called the Yuga dharma for Kali Yuga. That's the only dharma. The Kalau nasti eva nasti eva nasti eva gatiranyata. Harer nama namaiva kevalam. Only the chanting of Harinam is the dharma for Kali Yuga. It's from the Naradiya Purana.
Okay.
In Kali Yuga, there is no other process of dharma that will really be effective. So it's relevant to say that after hearing this.
Correct.
Good. So we will close with this for today. Thank you. We had very good questions today. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahishaha Gobhramanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Lokas Samastas Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Tad Vishno Paramam Padagum Sada Pashyanti Surayah Divi Vachakshuratatam Tad Vipraso Vipanyavo Jagruvagum Sassamindhate Vishnor Yat Paramam Padam Parya Aptya Anantarayaya Sarvastamoti Uttama Mahat Sarvasyaptyai Sarvasya Jityai Sarvameva Tena Apnoti Sarvam Jayati. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.